Here we go with the main screencast on drag and drop editing using iMovie. Now this is not really going to be a complete all-around tutorial on all the tools and functions of iMovie. Rather, it's going to be a much shorter screencast just about how to put all those bits and pieces together. There are definitely a lot of tutorials already on the web about how to use iMovie. So really I'm just going to go through an example which I think typifies what's the kind of thing you might make as an academic staff member. So here's my first element, my intro webcam. We can see that we've got 3 clips here. I already know that the first 2 aren't the ones I want to work with. I want to work with this one here. So I'm going to use the slider and expand it out. And I'm just going to find the endpoint.
Closer look at talk through some of the ways and means.
So I'll leave the end right at the end point. And now I'll go right up to the beginning of this clip and I'll just see where I want to come in.
Hi everyone.
Okay, just before that, so I'm looking to drag the handle in just about there. If I really want to be very careful about this and very fine about it, I can zoom in and make those finer cuts. So you can see that my cursor is now a hand, which means if I click and drag, I can come and drop it into the timeline. There we go. And once again, I do want to zoom out so I can see the whole thing.
Whatever you need to do, but really I just want you to.
Now I'd like to bring in the 3 images. There they are. I'm just going to drop them in. You can see it's adding 3 stills to the project. I still haven't named it. Now what it's doing is it's applying an automatic zoom and pan and zoom. That's called the Ken Burns effect. Actually what I'd like to do is remove that. So I'll zoom in a little bit. I'll choose cropping, Ken Burns and rotation, and I'll just choose fit, because in all cases I'd like to just fit the image to the screen. I don't really want it to move around. That's too subjective for what I'm trying to do. So let's just play that back.
These images just to talk through some of the ways and means.
Okay, so that's running for about 4 seconds. I'd like to change the duration of it. So I'll go to clip adjustments and I'll change it from 4 seconds to about 8. I think that's going to be fine. I'll change this one from 4 to 8. And I'll change this one from 4 to 8 also. Done. That gives me a little bit more time as I'm talking over them. Okay, because I'd like to say a few things about them. I can change that later on, but I'm going to add a voiceover over the top of those. Okay, now the next one I want to bring in is the Pixlr Screen Vid, editing with Pixlr. So I'll import these 2 movies. They're on my desktop. I can bring them into this event. File, import movies. I'll just bring them in as their full original size. That's okay. Navigate to the desktop and I'll choose that one and that one. Click import. Okay, so I'm just going to maximize my screen again, and I can see now those 2 other clips have come in. That's good. Yep, Okay, so I'd like to drag this one in. I can select the whole thing and I can trim it inside the timeline if I choose. And also working with Pixlr, I'd like to drag this one in as well. So the little handles, you can see how when I hover the mouse over the little handle, it changes to a double-sided arrow. I'm going to drop that in, and I target where I'm going to drop it by using the green line indicator. There we go. Now I might just zoom this out a bit so I can get all my all my clips on the screen. And I'll probably want to reduce to trim this clip here as well. Let's have a listen.
Okay, so what I'm showing you now is something called Pixlr, pixlr.com/editor. You can use a more simple mode. I'll just show you that as well. Okay, there's Express and Pixlr-O-Matic. These are very much like Instagram type editing, whereas Pixlr Editor is really kind of a full-blown editor. It's got many of the same kind of tool set that you find in Photoshop.
Okay, I've hit the spacebar. I would like to trim it there.
It's like a kind of tool set that you find in Photoshop.
And I'd like to split the clip. I can also just trim to the playhead, but let's choose split clip for now, just so you can see what it does. So here's the back half and here's the front half. Now with that half I can just delete it.
Same kind of tool set that you find in Photoshop. So here we are in the advanced editor. I'm just going to move to full screen mode just to give us the biggest picture. And I'm going to open one of the images from my...
That's fine. I think I might put a little crossfade in there, so I'll just go to the transitions window and I'll just put in a little crossfade just to make that look a bit cleaner.
Tool set that you find in Photoshop. So here we are in the advanced editor.
Now I would like to just check how long that's running for. I can close that window. So I can see down the bottom here it's running for about 5 minutes. That's about as much as I'd like to put out. I don't want my students to have to watch any more than a 5-minute clip. 5 minutes is max. So the last thing for me to do is to put a little bit of a title on it and put a bit of voiceover over these images just to give them some context. So I'd like to add a quick title. I'm just going to choose title from here. I'm going to choose the centered title. And I just need to drag that over here. I'm going to place it at the front of my project, and I'm going to call it ABCD 10002 week 3 activity. Image editing. Actually, what I'm going to call it is subjective image editing. Okay, I can change the 4 seconds is fine, but probably want to change that to a bit shorter. 2 is probably fine. That's done. I can put a little transition in there.
Hi everyone, welcome to week 3.
There we go. Now I'd like to do a voiceover. So here's the voiceover tool. I'll close that and just want to collect my thoughts so that I know what I'm going to say about each of these. I've got 8 seconds. 8 seconds is plenty. And we'll see how the voiceover one works. To record, click a clip where you want the voiceover to begin. Okay, and it does a little countdown. You can see I'm using the built-in microphone and I'm getting a fairly good reception. It's bouncing up around the middle. It should be going up to the middle or the end. So I'll put the input volume up just a little bit more. Now I'd like it to start just here. So if we have a look at some of these images, have a think to yourself, how could this be read differently by the viewer? What can I change in terms of the cropping or the elements within? I really want you to have a go at either adding elements, removing elements, changing the colors, changing the contrast, and cropping. And you can see that it's laid down voice recording there. Let's have a listen to how it sounds.
Look at these images just to talk through some of the ways and means. So if we have a look at some of these images, have a think to yourself.
Now I can see that it's going red, so I'm going to just turn the volume down a little bit. I'll click on the little waveform here and it'll show me the volume controls. And it's as simple as grabbing that black line and dragging it down a little bit.
So if we have a look at some of these images, have a think to yourself, how could this be read differently by the viewer?
Okay, that's my project finished. I don't really want to be any fancier than that. I don't need to put anything else on it. I don't need to give myself a lower third because my students will already recognize my face and understand what I'm sending them. Primarily because I'm explaining it, but also I can put a little note in the LMS to give some more explanation. So I'm ready to export. So up in the top menu we've got the word share, which is basically what Apple, the terminology Apple uses, and I'd like to share to any of these online platforms, or just export movie. It's the most common one. It's going to make an M4V file, which is pretty common format now, and I'll keep it at large. That's what it's optimized for, and I'll call it week 3. I'll call it ABCD 10003 week 3 image editing. If you like, you can put some underscores in there as well. I'll just save it to my desktop for now and I'll export, and once that's done we'll have a look at the finished product. So now it's finished exporting. I'm just going to minimize, and there we'll see it is on the desktop. What I can do instead is control click open with, and I'll choose QuickTime Player instead.
Hi everyone, welcome to week 3. I've set up an activity for this week, which I hope will build on a conversation we were having last week about editing images for a subjective outcome. It's something that happens all the time in the advertising realm. It certainly happens in this and cropping. Okay, so what I'm showing you now is something called Pixlr.
Okay, so that's pretty effective video, and that's it. Drag and drop editing done easily and quickly.